Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So if you are watching this, then I hope you have watched part 1. If you have not, please watch part 1. I'll put it up here first and then come to this one. It doesn't really matter, but I just feel like maybe if I say at the end, if there are any questions that I have not answered, you know, maybe it was in the first video and you didn't watch the first. Regardless, if you want to watch part 1, it's up here. And yeah, so this will be part 2 of the Q&A. I received a lot of questions, and so I had to split the Q&A into 2 parts. So this part will be about teaching, living logistics, and then friendships, relationships, etc, etc. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Kay or Kutlano. I'm from South Africa and I'm currently living in South Korea as an English teacher. For those of you who are not new around here and are returning subscribers, hey, what's up? Teaching. Which company or contact did you use to get the job overseas? So I used Korean Horizons. That is a recruitment agency, and I had already chosen the program that I want to go to, which is the EPIC program, English program in Korea. And you can either apply to that directly or through a recruiter. I wanted to use a recruiter because it was my first time applying for a job like ever, because I was self-employed before. And also I just kind of wanted someone to deal with some of the stress for me, because I stress a lot. That's just my personality. Like, I get stressed very easily, and so I didn't want to be overwhelmed by the whole process. I wanted someone to guide me through it. So I used Korean Horizons. He's very thorough and he has a lot of people to deal with, like, at any given time, but he's very thorough nonetheless. And he really, without him, I don't know if I would have been able to do this. So that is the company that I used to get my job here in Korea. How much can one expect to save as an EPIC teacher per year on average after deductions? After deductions, I can't say, because it depends on where you are from. If you are South African, for example, you don't have pension deductions, although you get that back later. But we don't have that, and we are also like tax exempt. There's a whole lot of things like your tax exemption, pension, those things that changes the amount that gets deducted from your salary. Also things like how much your school lunch costs changes the amount of deductions from your salary. And also if you do extra things that kind of cancel out those deductions. So for example, I run like a speakeasy English club with adults at my school, like other teachers, not English teachers, who want to learn English, and so the amount that I get paid for that is basically the amount of my lunch. So and yeah, stuff like that, that's different. But I would say, if I look at how much I have managed to save this year I made a lot of big purchases that I needed. Like, I actually needed these things. Like, I needed a new laptop, I needed a vlogging camera, because my camera is very heavy to carry around and it's not so smooth for vlogging, because it's a DSLR. It's made for like actual film production with a tripod or like photography. And so I needed a vlogging camera. I also have had a lot of dental work done this year, and dental work in Korea is really expensive. So I've made a lot of big purchases, and so I can't really say, but I think that because when I looked at how much I've saved thus far with those big purchases in mind, last month, this was before I did all my dental work and all my money went whew. If I look at that amount, I think it's very easy to save 6 figures. So you can pretty much save 6 figures in rands. I think it's very possible in 1 year of working in Korea. And that, just how much that is depends on you and how much you spend. And even if you don't save that because maybe you have student loans and things like that back home, then I'm not really sure, but I think you can come pretty close still, depending on how you live within the money you're willing to spend every month. Yeah, the reason I say that is because I think the lowest amount that you can get paid in EPIC, this is just in my program, by the way, specifically. This would change depending on your program or if you work for a hagwon or whatever. But yeah, the lowest you can earn every month, I think, is like 30,000 rand. And then obviously you're going to use probably half of that for your living expenses and to have fun and stuff. So yeah. you can save a lot of money is the moral of the story. I'm not giving precise figures because I do feel like it depends on the person and what they need to pay back home and how they live, like just your spending habits and stuff. What did epic training look like? Epic training, I have a video here of what our orientation was like. I'm sure it's changed a lot now because of corona, so I don't really want to say because I don't think it's the same. And I don't know if it's ever going to be the same again. But basically epic training was just like you do a certain amount of actual training for the actual job of epic every day, and then you have like days where you have like cultural excursions, cultural lessons, stuff like that. It's at a university campus in Korea usually, although I've heard that's also different because of corona. And it used to be 10 days. I think it's 7 days now. Ours was 7 days. I think we were the first people to have a 7-day orientation. Yeah. Which epic intake do you recommend and how long did it take to apply? How long it takes to apply? 6 months. It's a 6-month application process. The reason I say 6 months is because if you are applying for the spring intake, then in like August you start applying already. Spring intake is like March, February. In August already you must start applying and sorting out your documents and stuff. If you are applying for the August intake, then in March or February I think it was, you start sorting everything out. So applying takes 6 months, and that's 6 months of something is happening outside. Okay. That's 6 months of applying for the actual thing, doing your interview, doing, if you have a recruiter, doing mock interviews with them, sorting out your documents, making changes to your documents, waiting to hear about your placement and stuff like that, all sorts of things like that. I wanted to make a video about the epic application process, but literally after our intake, so the intake that was next, their process changed. Especially in South Africa, like something about one of the documents you have to sort out changed. Like all of a sudden you had to go through another party to figure it out. So I don't want to make that video because it's going to be outdated. That's why I haven't made it because it's not the same process that I went through. Which intake did I go through? I am the August intake, so that is the fall intake, which means that you come in the middle of the year. Which one do I recommend? I don't know. The reason being is that mine has less, they take less people for my intake. So if the spring one has 900 spaces or 700 vacancies, then the fall one only has like 400, and so the competition is a bit stiffer in the fall. But I had to do the fall intake because of the way my graduation was set up. Like I finished school in November or December, and then I only graduated in April, so I still had to wait to like fully graduate before I could do anything. So I ended up having to do the full intake because I just wanted to go as soon as possible. But would I recommend it? I do think the competition is stiffer. I was super early, and so I got super lucky with my placement and stuff. If you are a very organized person, I would go for fall. If you are not someone who's organized and you procrastinate a lot, I mean I procrastinate with everything else except this, I did not, then I would go for spring because there's a bit more leeway, there's more spaces, but also I think spring has more applicants. So yeah, I don't know, it is what it is. In terms of like actual like school, I would recommend the spring intake. The reason being, I came in the middle of the year and I felt like I couldn't make any rules because I'm coming in the middle of the year. I have to go with whatever system they have. I didn't feel like changing. Like for example, the teacher before me had one reward system, so I couldn't introduce a new reward system. I know I'm a new teacher, but like these kids are used to this one, so we just kept doing her old reward system. I couldn't make rules in my classroom because they already have rules. Now I'm gonna change them, and kids are not good with change. Like kids take forever to get used to change. So you know, I would have liked to be in the spring intake because just now when I started the first semester, I was able to make all the rules that I want, introduce my own reward system, and it's just, oh, it's just so nice. It feels like it's my classroom finally. And also I feel like I have more authority because I'm coming in fresh at the start of the year, so they're more likely to listen to me and do less comparing to like the previous teacher who was just here like 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? I don't know, that's just a strange thing. Would you say that you're living or have attained the teaching philosophy you wrote down in your application? So this is a very epic question. In the epic application, they ask you what your teaching philosophy is. My teaching philosophy is based on this program that I did in high school, where there were 3 core values: respect, integrity, and accountability. And so my teaching philosophy was based on that. And then this program also really valued mentorship. So I said that my teaching philosophy would be more than just being a teacher, but also being a mentor, because some of the best teachers I had in high school, like one of them, I even attended her wedding and we still speak from time to time, were like mentors to me. Have I achieved that, or am I attaining that? I think to an extent. I think where it's possible. In my bigger schools, I do have kids who like I have a better relationship with than like the other kids, but it's a bit harder to have one-on-one relationships because there's so many kids, and if you are, it tends to be the kids who are good at English that want to be close to you, you know. And I can speak some Korean, so my kids do approach me a lot more, I think, because of that. But it does tend to be the ones who speak English who I can have an actual conversation with, because I also don't want to let my kids be too dependent on the fact that I speak Korean, because then when I teach English, they're like, just do it in Korean, and I'm like, no. So yeah, it's factors like that, where in my bigger classes it's a little bit difficult because I don't want to show favoritism. In my other schools where I have like 6 kids max in a class, it's been really nice in terms of being a mentor as well. It's usually with my 5th and 6th graders who I guess are going to middle school and they feel like they're a little bit older and more mature, who I'm able to actually have conversations about what they want to do and like what they like and stuff like that. So would I say I've attained it? I don't think I've attained it. There's only one goal I can say I spoke to enough to really get to know her. It's also because the kids are like scared that they'll make mistakes if they speak. I would say I'm getting there. I think it's a little bit difficult to mentor children when they are worried about a language barrier, because even if I speak Korean, I don't speak the same level of Korean as them, or if we speak in English, they don't speak the same English as me. So I think I'm getting there because my kids definitely have warmed up to me now, but now I'm also going to leave the school in 6 months, and so it's a little bit difficult to attain that teaching philosophy, I think, if you're not there for a long period of time. And also just when I arrived, I think my kids had trust issues because the previous teacher was only there for like 6 months, for example, so they felt like I was also going to be there for a short amount of time, and it took them a while to open up to me. So I think they also know that you're there for a temporary amount of time and you could be there for less time than they think, and so it's difficult to open up to you and to form that kind of mentorship relationship. So I don't think I've attained it, but I think I'm working on it. I see many are teaching at different schools, some are teaching at least 3. So when it comes to salary, is it a single contract salary, or do you get paid for each school? You get paid a single salary and then you get a bonus if you have extra schools. So that bonus is dependent, like if you have 2 schools, you get a bonus for just the one other school. If you have 3 schools, then you'll get a bonus for the 2 schools in conjunction with your salary. So it's one contract. When choosing a school, when speaking with an agent, how do you know which one is private school or public school? In Korea, this is very obvious. When they say private school, usually they mean like a private academy, and an academy is usually a business that's run like private sector, and it's like after school, and that's when you'll teach like a very small amount of students more skill intensive work. Yeah, so that's the biggest difference. It's called a hagwon in Korea. So yeah, I don't know, there are also international schools and then like foreign schools and stuff like that. Those, oh, and technical schools, those are a little bit different, but for the most part, if it's a school from like 8 to 5 or whatever time, it's a public school, and if it's after that, after hours, then it's a private school. And you will know just from the name. If it says hagwon, then it's a hagwon. If it says Choldung, it's probably a public school. Okay, next question. Between private and public schools, which one is more conducive? Which would you recommend? I mean, that's relative, no, isn't it? I think it really depends. As far as learning goes, I know my kids learn a lot more from private academies, from hagwons, than they do at school. But I think that's just, I mean, it's sad, but like the kids who can afford to go to private academies do tend to be better at English. It's very sad, but it's true. And I think it's just because it's a smaller class in a hagwon. It's also like very focused on specific skills. Like I know that they can like learn how to do speeches and stuff like that. I don't think that will ever happen in elementary school during the like semester. And so I think when you say conducive, if you mean towards the child's learning, I would say a hagwon. I think they do learn more at hagwons, private academies. And if you mean conducive in terms of your work environment, like you personally, I think public school, because I know hagwon teachers are very overworked. They have way less, literally less than half of the vacation days that public school teachers have. The salary may be the same, but also they work like night hours kind of, so that also takes a toll, because like at the time I get home, they're starting work, or they're, I don't know, I don't actually know what time they start work, but yeah, basically the kids would go to a hagwon after school, so whatever time that is until like maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock they're working. So if you're a night owl, that's great. I don't know, there's just a number of factors, I guess. If you mean conducive towards you, I would go public school, especially through Epic. I don't know about direct ties with public school, but because it's government regulated, you get more of your health insurance off, because I think most hagwons offer 50%, and with Epic you get 70% of your health insurance covered. Your salary, it's easier to earn bonuses if you have more than one school, and if you live like in a rural area. And yeah, your work conditions I think are more regulated, and if you have an issue and you point at your contract, there are more than just your employer who can back you up. You can take it then to Epic. Like for example, my line of complaint would be my co-teacher. If my co-teacher can't do something about it, then I would go to the person who's in charge of English in the school. If they can't do something about it, then I think I would probably go to we have like, I don't know what his title is, but at the education office, the person who's in charge of the foreigners, I would go to that person, and then they can sort it out between maybe my school and my principal, be a intermediary, I guess, like someone in the middle, a middleman. And then if that doesn't work, it can go up to Epic, which would be a really big deal. But yeah, there's like steps that I can take, and then if there's like a really huge problem, I guess, like, you know what I mean. Whereas a hagwon, if you have an issue, it's between you and your boss. That's it. There's no one who's on your side. There's no support. So I would say conducive for you, public school. Conducive for the kids, I do think they learn more at hagwons. That's just from my opinion. My kids who go to hagwons are way better at English than my other kids. Does the salary differ from a person who studied a B education, a bachelor's in education, to a person who has a degree in the arts? So I only know about Epic. I'm not sure how this works with hagwons, with private academies, but if you are doing Epic, then there is a pay scale. So for example, if you studied a B Ed, a bachelor's in education, and you are a fresh graduate, no experience, and I studied a Bachelor of Film Arts and have a TEFL certificate, then we're on the same level pay scale wise, because we don't have experience. And then kind of like, if maybe at the same starting point I have a TEFL, no experience, and then you have a B.Ed with teaching experience, maybe that puts you a level up. I'm not 1000% sure, but basically your experience will push you up, and then the higher your qualification is pushes you up initially. But with Epic there is a threshold, like you can only earn so much. Siri. So basically my pay scale has gone up because I now have a year's experience, so your pay scale will go up in the same way. I think essentially what I'm saying is that at a starting point we would be in the same level unless you have experience that puts you higher on the pay scale, and then if you have like a master's that puts you higher on the pay scale, and then if you have 2 years experience plus that puts you higher on the pay scale. So it's got levels, I suppose, which I suppose is why it doesn't really matter what you studied, because you'd have a TEFL. I do know that if you studied a bachelor's in education, you can actually apply to like international schools and foreign schools and stuff like that, where I'm not sure if the pay would necessarily be higher, but maybe you can teach more subjects, or you would be able to, I don't know, have better control of your classroom, I suppose. Like I have a friend who wanted to teach in an international school because she is actually a qualified teacher, and she would like to have control of her own classroom. So stuff like that, you can do stuff like that with a B.Ed that the rest of us can't do. Is there an age restriction to when you can start teaching in Korea? I would imagine yes, but not like a spoken one. You need a degree to teach English in Korea, so I would assume however old you are when you finish a degree would be the starting age. Because like for example, I don't know why, but whenever people hear my age they're surprised that I'm already like teaching and have a job and stuff. I think Korean people my age don't start working as quickly, or whatever the case is, and so yeah, it's just because I guess South Africa graduates faster, like we get our undergrad done faster, I suppose. I don't know, but yeah, essentially you need a degree. So however old you are when you finish the degree. If you have a diploma though, or you are still studying for your undergrad, you can come to Korea, but you have to do the talk program, which is more like an internship, and it's got like less pay and less teaching hours, I think. I don't know how it works. But essentially you can come while you're still studying, and then that would make you younger than like the rest of us who start in Epic at like 22, 21. Yeah. When do you get time off, and how much time do you get off? So I work, it's changed because of Corona, it's usually 8:40 to 4:40 AM to PM every day. So I get time off after work during the week, in the evenings, and then the weekends I have off. You never ever teach on the weekends. Even if you have camp, they will never make you work on a weekend. They're not allowed to. And if you do work on a weekend, or if you do work overtime, like actually teaching past a certain time, you get paid overtime. And then other than that, you get, in Epic you get 26 vacation days. So usually you would split that like 13 between summer vacation and winter vacation, and that doesn't include weekends or public holidays. So yeah, that's kind of a long time. And pre-corona schools would close for like a month or two, kind of. It felt like 2 months, I'm not really sure, I can't remember. It feels like a long time ago before corona. Anyway, and what else? You get the red days off. So any public holiday or any day that's marked red on the calendar, you get off. And May 1st is Labor Day for most countries, but not in Korea, I don't think. So we're the only ones who get off. Like all the Korean teachers will still come to work that day. Yeah, so that's how much time you get off. If you are doing like a hagwon or something, I heard they get like 10 days off usually. Yeah, vacation days, I mean. Oh, and then you get sick days as well. I think you get 3 fully paid sick days where you don't have to bring a doctor's letter. After that you have to bring a doctor's letter. And what else? Yeah, I think that's all. Best part of teaching the kids, obviously the kids. I'm not a fan of lesson planning or anything like that, but I love interacting with my kids, especially like in the middle of the lesson or after the lesson, like just speaking to them and like seeing what's up with them, and like walking with them and just talking. I love that. That's the best part of teaching for me. The actual job, not too bad, but I mostly do it for the kids. Like, you wake up not wanting to go to work, and then you go like drag yourself to your first lesson, and then you teach, and then your kids just cheer you up, and they just love you, and they just think you're awesome, and you're like, wow, a bunch of humans, like 25 humans in a class who just think I'm awesome. Okay, maybe not all of them, but you know, a good majority in the class think I'm pretty cool. So yeah, the kids definitely. Then we will move on to living logistics. With your TV, do you have to pay a TV channel subscription like DSTV in South Africa? I don't know. The reason I don't know is because it's included in my rent. When I arrived here, there was a thing that kind of looks like a decoder that we would know back in SA. It doesn't have like a card that you insert or anything. There's a decoder type thingy that was already here. I didn't have a TV at the time, but because it was in my contract, my school got me a TV. And so you connect that to the TV with the HDMI, and then boom, you have DSTV, but for Korea. I don't know what they call it, but I don't know if they call it like cable or what. I don't know. And it has like 1,000 channels. Actually, I still have not gone through every single channel. It's all in Korean, but there are a few English channels, and if there's an English movie, it has Korean subtitles. So there's that. So I don't know if I pay for, I mean, I don't pay for it, so I don't know how it works to pay for it, because it was already here and literally it was working the whole time. It's just when I didn't have a TV, it was going to waste. So yeah, I don't know how that works. There was a question about hair products and like how I handle my hair in Korea. I don't know if you can tell, but I have natural 4C. That's 4C, not American 4C. 4C hair. I say American 4C because I really have this belief that American 4C is not the same as the 4C the rest of us have. But anyway, yeah, I have 4C natural hair. So there was a lot of questions about how I deal with that, so I decided to make a separate video about it. When you talk about how the data and Wi-Fi plans work, data and Wi-Fi, I don't know about my Wi-Fi because my landlady is awesome and that was also included in my rent. This obviously differs between your landlady and landlord and your school also. But data, I opened a data plan with KT, which is one of the cell providers here. There's also SKT. I don't know what the other ones are called because I don't use them. And then that one, I can't remember how much I pay every month. I mean, I get, I think 3 gigabytes every month because there's Wi-Fi everywhere, and then I go over that amount every month, and I still only end up paying about 50,000 won. Regardless of how much I go over, I have never actually paid 50,000 won. I pay like 48, 47, that amount. So that's about how much I pay for my data every month, and this is going over my actual data that I'm allocated. Free phone calls, free texts, and then there's Wi-Fi literally everywhere in Korea. Everywhere. Like, I'll be walking and just connect to some random Wi-Fi, and it's like pretty good public Wi-Fi. You know, sometimes public Wi-Fi is not great, but it's pretty good. So yeah, there's that. And then yeah, you just go to KT, open your, well, you don't have to go to KT, you can go to SKT, wherever you want to go, and open your plan. Usually if you're coming through Epic, your co-teacher will help you with that, so don't worry about it. But one thing, you need a bank account to open a KT account, and what's weird is I needed a phone number to open a bank account, so it was a bit of a back and forth, but yeah, that happened. And then what I would say is that if you're gonna come to Korea, whether you're coming for vacation or to live, whatever, I think it was Klook.com, they have like tourist SIM cards. So that's like a SIM card that'll last 15 days or 30 days or whatever. There's different packages. I would get that, and then the second you get to the airport, you go to the counter, you get your SIM card, you put it in. I can't remember how much it was, but you don't know when you're gonna have time to, especially if you have like orientation and all of these things that are happening before you actually get to your city and your apartment, and meet your co-teacher and have time to go and open a bank account with them, or if they're not necessarily helpful and you have to figure it out yourself, or a whole lot of things can happen, or you take long to open your bank account and then KT closes for the, you know what, you need a SIM card to communicate. It'll make your life easier. They have pretty good SIM card deals where I think it's also free calls and text, and then you just pay for data, but even the data is like unlimited data, and then you can extend it. So like, for example, I hadn't sorted out my account yet by the time my SIM card finished, so I just extended it a little bit, and then that was fine. So yeah, I would definitely recommend going, I think it's klook.com, and getting a tourist SIM card the second you get to Korea. It doesn't matter what you're here for. Okay, and then this is the part where I got the most interesting questions. Friendships, relationships, and people. That's what I'm calling this category. How are friendships? Friendships are good. Keep in mind, you are abroad, and probably if you come through a program or something like that, you don't really get that much say over who your friend group is. You tend to be friends out of convenience with people because they live in your area or whatever the case is. And if it's not that, and it's like people that you actually like, oh, I'm not saying you don't click with the other ones, but I'm just saying, like, if it's people that you actually like, maybe you have a common hobby and that's how you became friends, then that's great. But then the weird thing about being abroad is, like, some people are here for a long time, some people are here for a short time, so you become like super close with people and then they leave. And then maybe if you have a friend group, maybe half of your friend group leaves. Or if you had like 1 or 2 close friends, if that friend leaves, then it's almost like you're alone again. So friendships are weird, and it's weird because you can't even be like, okay, I'm gonna plan according to who's staying for a long time, because if you ask someone and they say, yeah, I'm gonna be here for 5 years, and then after a year they hate it, they're gonna go home. So yeah, friendships are, it's like a temporary feeling, even though you make some really great friends, don't get me wrong, but it's like some of them, like some of your friendships tend to feel very temporary, and then like in person, and then you're gonna have to maintain that obviously while you guys are in different countries and continents that you're actually from. But yeah, then there are friends who are like settled here, and then there are local friends. Those cool too. I mean, it's just like friendships back home. It's just that there's the element of, you know, someone might leave at some point. You have to keep that in mind at all, well, not at all times, but I'm just saying you have to think about the fact that at some point somebody is going to leave, unless you all settle in that country, or unless all your friends are locals and then you settle in the country, that type of thing. How's relationships in South Korea? They're like relationships anywhere else. I've only been in one relationship here, and that I ended it because it just wasn't working for me. Like, our personalities were too different. Factors were too different. Like, I work during the day, they work at night. I like to keep in contact often, they're busy so they can't, type of thing. So we broke up for that reason. And then I think the next questions will answer more about that. So, are the Korean boys as cute as advertised in K-pop? Yo. So I'm gonna put a screenshot here. I was actually watching a drama earlier called Hyena, and there's this shot where it's, I think, lawyers or someone, I don't know who this group of people are. Yeah, actually I think it's a defender and like his team or whatever are walking, and I'm like, there's no way that you're telling me a company hired and all of these people are this good looking in this group. There's like 6 guys in this group. They look like they could be K-pop. I don't know, not like idols, but they just look unrealistically good looking for like a group of people. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know, it sounds weird, but regardless, I think anyone who comes to Korea expecting everyone to look like they look in the K-dramas and in like, and the idols and stuff, that is not the case. And I think you should know that, because even in Hollywood they, okay, no, but Hollywood is a bit more inclusive about looks, but in Korea, like, even some of the extras are cast based on their looks. Like, you're not just gonna have like a conventionally less attractive person in the background. They won't do it unless that's the point of the character. And even then, like, what Koreans would define as not good looking like actors and actresses and stuff, I'm always just like, you know, according to Korean standards, yes, but like overseas they would do really, really well. Like they'd become really good looking in the eyes of like Westerners. So what was I getting at here? My point is, don't look at Korean media and assume that all Koreans look like that. There are a lot of beautiful people in Korea, and but even if you talk to some of the most beautiful friends that I have, if I talk to them, they're just like, oh, I'm so ugly, or oh, I'm so average. And I'm just like, if you went to South Africa, you'd be a catch. So you know what I mean? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But also don't expect everyone to look like a K-pop idol. And even in Seoul, like especially outside of Seoul, don't expect that. But even in Seoul, like, it doesn't work like that unless you go to like a cafe or something, because I know they do hire based on looks. Okay, on that note, how often do you see K-pop idols? I do not, unless I pay money to see them in a concert. I do not see K-pop idols. First of all, I don't live in Seoul, you know, and even if I did live in Seoul, I doubt I would just see them walking around. Like, yeah. So unless I'm paying money to see them in a concert, I do not see K-pop idols. Like, you're not gonna come to Korea and just see K-pop idols everywhere, or celebrities and stuff. Yeah. Have you experienced any creeps yet? Yeah. Mostly old men, some taxi drivers. There was also this weird guy who keeps showing up in my neighborhood, and he just loves shouting things at me, and I'm just like, please stop talking to me, I just want to go home. But yeah, I think there are creeps anywhere, right? But yeah, I haven't had like any stalkers or anything. I know some people have been stalked, but I haven't had anything that severe. Just like guys who are weird, and then guys who want to DM you strange things because you're foreign or because you're black. Like, honestly, this is like, sometimes I look at my DMs and I'm like, this person is not serious. Like, some of the things they say, and this is why I'm like, I've experienced microaggressions, like especially from men, because I think they think they're hitting on you or they're complimenting you, but I'm just like, you're saying this because you're stereotyping me as some exotic, I don't know what. So yes, I've experienced creeps in that sense as well, but I'm just like, this is tense, I'm not interested. Moving on. Have you dated any Korean guy? If so, how was it? Are they like the movies? Have I dated any Korean guy, like a relationship? I would say I've been in a relationship. It was about 4 months, I count that. How was it? It was like, when it was good, it was good. I mean, it wasn't bad either. It was just we weren't compatible, I think, just in terms of like logistics. But yeah, it was good. Are they like in the movies? I mean, I guess it depends on the guy's personality. I've gone on dates with guys here. Are they like in the movies? Like, do they do all of that gentlemanly stuff for you? They really do, shame, and they pay for everything. Like, I've had guys who get offended when I try to pay for things. There was a guy, like, I bought us like 2 beers and he was like, do you have cacao pay? I was like, don't worry about it, it's just a beer. It really isn't costing me that much money, but he wanted to pay me back, so I was just like, let's not. But yeah, like, they are kind of like in the dramas, like they're not, I mean, obviously the dramas are based on an element of reality, but not every guy is like so sweet and doting on you and full of egg and stuff. It really just depends on the guy's personality. But they are very gentlemanly, and I have experienced a lot of the things that I saw in K-dramas, but obviously not all of them are like that. That's all I really have to say about that. Actually, this is not as juicy as I thought it would be. Sorry, guys. Dating life in Korea as a black person. So dating as a black person in Korea, I think you have to deal with a lot of fetishization. You get fetishized a lot. When I say dating, I mean like going on dates. I don't mean like being in a relationship. Going on dates with Korean men, you get fetishized a lot. You have to do a lot of teaching. And even then, maybe you don't have the patience to do that, so you really don't have to. But I just mean like, in the event that you like this guy, you feel like you have to teach them certain things. And there's a lot of intrigue as well. But I've also like gone on dates with guys who have dated foreigners before, but maybe the foreigner was like a different nationality, so then there's still like this weird level of exoticism that you feel. But otherwise, like you know, it's like dating anyway. You're gonna date some cool guys, date some not so cool guys. It works out for this reason, it doesn't work out for this reason. What you see in the dramas is not gonna apply to everyone, especially you're different and then you're also black. Like it's different, and a lot of people have a lot of different experiences, and you just need to keep that in mind. But are like, just generally to wrap up the whole relationship section, are the guys as nice as they are in the dramas? Some of them are jerks, some of them are super nice, just like in any country. Do they do all of the sweet things they do in the dramas? Depends on the personality. And how's the experience dating them? I mean, it can be really awesome and then it just doesn't work out for reasons. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm not gonna like, I'm not a tea spiller in the sense. So if you have any questions that you're curious about, you can leave them in the comments, or if it feels personal, like you want a very specific answer and I didn't give it because I'm not a tea spiller, then you can DM me on Instagram. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. If there's anything else you're curious about that I didn't answer in part 1 or 2, then please leave a comment down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.